iPhone 17 Pro Max versus the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra speed test. That video is coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Let's go ahead and begin with a boot up test in 3, 2, go, and see which one can get there first. Now, quick specs so you want to know, if you need to know, the Samsung does have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. It does have 12 gigabytes of RAM. And then we do have ourselves the Apple A19 Pro on the left with 12 gigabytes of RAM. One UI 8 over here, iOS 26. And you've seen that the One UI 8 for the Galaxy S24 Ultra will take the first boot up and take that first W. So Samsung says, I'll take the first win. All right, and when it comes to biometrics, we do have the Face ID over here. So you're just going to go ahead and swipe right in. I don't have Race to Wake on, but if you did have Race to Wake on, it would be a little bit faster, but pretty simple and convenient to get into the iPhone here still. But no Touch ID. I always thought they were going to integrate Touch ID as well with that, but it looks like we're just going to stick with that. Now, the Samsung, you can look at it and just kind of go right in, but you will want to go ahead and use the fingerprint for a little bit more security. Let's go ahead and look one more time. And it's not super easy to fool pictures anymore with this phone, but at the same time, I would still use the fingerprint sensor. It does seem to be a little bit quicker to get into this phone. Also, just like any other Samsung phone, you could just kind of, if you know where that fingerprint sensor is, you can be coming out of the pocket. You can see it's off here. You'll be already able to get right in there. So a little bit faster there. Now, when it comes to the actual home screens, the iOS 26, definitely a big departure from 18 when it comes to the looks. But generally for the 17 Pro Max, it runs buttery smooth as you would expect. However, the S24 Ultra was an absolute beast when it came out, and it still runs pretty smooth. Even though people don't talk about this phone much anymore, this was one of those phones, if you picked up, it was a good choice because it's going to last a very long time. It's still running beautiful, and it runs. I was actually testing these before we did the speed test, and I'm just really impressed with the performance that I'm still getting out of the Galaxy S24 Ultra. It honestly feels like a brand new phone still. So I really do love that performance over there as well. I will say that Samsung kind of feels like it's flying along its software just a little bit faster, whereas Apple does seem to be going for more of this bouncing, these visual effects, even like the fly-in when you first come into the phone. Like when you fly in like that, it's kind of a little bit slower to get in, whereas with the Samsung, it kind of just pops right in. There's a little bit of animation, but it's not nearly as obvious as the one on the iPhone. Let me know your thoughts on like how they generally look in the software down below in the comments. All right, so we've arrived at the app test. You can see everything is closed out for both phones. Let's head into calendar, and you can see it looks like the animation was slightly faster on the Samsung. We're going to go into calculator. That was quicker on the Samsung. Let's go into App Store, Play Store. Once again, faster on the Samsung. And we're going to go ahead and swipe up out of there. We'll go into clock. And I think the animation was faster on the right. As we go through these different menus, you can see both of them do fantastic. Let's go into ChatGPT. That might have been the iPhone there. We'll go into Gemini. I think that was the iPhone again. We'll go into Grok. And that was Samsung. I did have to hit skip. Let's go into Copilot. I think that was the iPhone there. Let's go ahead and swipe up out of there. We'll go into News. That was on the iPhone. We'll go over here to following. Let's just go to, how about we go to consumer electronics? And for this one, we'll just do tech. A little bit faster on the Samsung. Samsung scrolling very fast, but Apple slows it down. I think I prefer the way Apple scrolls in news versus this faster scroll. I mean, I'm never going to scroll that fast. So I definitely tend to prefer the look there on the left. So let's go into YouTube here. And you can see faster on the, was it the Samsung on that one? I think it was the Samsung. Let's go over here and we'll go into music. You see that was faster on the Samsung. You can see in this video, if you have an S24 Ultra, I think Groupon was already open. Let me go ahead and close out Groupon. Must not have closed that app earlier when I was pre-testing these. Let's go into Groupon. And that was faster on the right though. You know, the S24 Ultra, if you have this phone and you're coming over to a 17 Pro Max, the performance upgrades are just not noticeable, really. It's going to be about what you already are used to. You might like the changes of the experience using liquid glass. You might like the iOS experience a little bit more if you've been on Samsung for many years. Same thing if you have the iPhone. If you have an iPhone, you're coming over to the S24. It might feel fun to use, but this was really such a beast at the time, the S24 Ultra, and 2 years later you can still see it's keeping up just fine. And this is probably why a lot of people these days are definitely keeping their smartphones longer, because they're at this peak level where they just perform so well. The actual performance, when we look at benchmarks, probably will come out ahead on the 17 Pro Max, but benchmarks only mean that if you actually push the phone to a level where it's going to push the CPU and GPU to where it's like needs all the power, that's the only time it's really going to probably benefit you substantially. Destiny Rising should be opening first here on the iPhone. It looks like it's in the lead. We'll have to see what happens here. We're launching a game still on the right. And no, actually, I was incorrect. The Samsung is going to win this one out. I thought that would have been the iPhone, as it is the later phone here for gaming. But we are downloading resources there on the left as well. I don't understand why it's doing that. I just launched these games before the video, so we'll go ahead and run that again once that gets into Destiny Rising there. I'm gonna launch this game one more time, and that's not to be like biased towards the iPhone. I just think that resource downloading right there, even after I just did this a minute ago, is probably one of the reasons why it took longer. So we're about to be in here on the 17 Pro Max, and finally in. So let's go ahead and swipe up out of there. We're gonna close these out on both, and we're gonna run it back to see if, now that they're both totally up to date, we'll see what happens. And it looks like both of them are kind of loading here at the same clip. If you're noticing like the darker blacks on the S24 Ultra, that's because it has the anti-reflective coating. They do have one on the iPhone as well, but it's not nearly as powerful as the one I see on the S24 or S25 Ultra. And so you can see both of them are still neck and neck here to load this game. It looks like, see, it was the resources downloading, because the 17 Pro Max actually can launch this game a little faster. But it's not by a whole bunch. You can see we're already about to be in here on the S24 Ultra as well. So again, even if you're coming over for games, you already had a vapor chamber in the S24 Ultra. It already does pretty good with heat management. So again, I don't see if there's that much of a jump there, unless you want to go to iOS, you want the longer battery life. That's one of the big ones, the battery. That was faster on the left. That's definitely one of the big ones. I do find that 17 Pro Max's battery to last a lot longer than the S24 Ultra, and that is one of the biggest things that matters to people when doing a flagship upgrade is the battery. So that would make sense. But the S24 Ultra is no slouch in that department either. It does pretty good, and it does have fast charging. So that's also pretty nice. Free Fire, let's go into LumaFusion. That was faster on the right, even though I have some media loading up over there on the right. We'll go into Call of Duty, and we'll see what happens here. I do feel like the anti-reflective coatings that are on the S25 Ultra and 4 Ultra definitely look better than the iPhone. Even the displays are more vivid. To me, the Samsung displays look a little better. Like if you were just look both of them in store, you'd be like, whoa, that Samsung display is popping. It definitely looks a little bit better, in my opinion. Let's swipe up out of here, and we'll go into 3D Mark. But the iPhone does have the advantage of being brighter if you want to take it outdoors. We'll go over here to Speed Test Net. I think that was faster on the iPhone. Speed Test InShot is faster on the Samsung, and Geekbench 6 faster on the Samsung. So overall, the Samsung seemed to launch more applications faster. It's probably down to its faster animations, the way they launch. Apple did launch a couple of those games first, showing why it probably is the more powerful phone. Let's go ahead and take a look at the benchmark results though. Before we do that, we're going to do our RAM management test where we go through all the applications. Now with 12 gigabytes of RAM, the iPhone has gotten even better at this ability to hold multiple apps, bounce between them, get things done. And while it is a single app phone, like you're not going to be able to multitask or split that screen, which is still annoying at this size of a device, it does have the ability to keep everything open very smoothly. I have been noticing that. Coming out of news there, I did see a little bit of a chop, but that generally this phone easily handles holding applications. Even if you were like going all the way back on the one that you launched all the way back there, come into the middle, it's going to be in the same location. So this 12 gigabytes of RAM is going to make a big difference, I think, in the long term. And you've seen there was a little bit of slowness from that bar going there to there. But generally, you know, that 12 gigabytes of RAM, I like that for the long term abilities of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Let's take a look at the Galaxy S24 Ultra. This is at about 2 years almost already for this phone. And we'll go over here to Free Fire. And we'll swipe up out of here. We'll go into Destiny Rising. It looks like the animations, because I have to do that double swipe. I should have turned that feature on Good Lock where it allows me to bypass that. But it looks like the animation a little bit like slower looking, honestly, here on the Samsung, but it looks visually pleasing. So a little bit of a blinking there on Gemini. And we'll go over here to calculator. Overall, though, the Samsung is pretty strong here in this department as well. That 12 gigabytes of RAM does allow this phone to also keep you in the same location that you're used to, or where you were on your previous application. Even if you go to one that you've been working on a long time ago, like let's say you were working on a video, you're still going to be in the same spot you were already in. So the S24 Ultra, absolutely still a beastly performer. It's just stacking right up to the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Like, you got to catch up to me. That's what it kind of like feels like. The iPhone has surpassed in performance a little bit, but it's like Samsung was already there. So that's how I'm seeing it here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the benchmarks. All right, so let's look at the benchmarks here. I already did these prior to the video, so I'm going to go find my results here. And you'll see that we do have 5728 for the iPhone. That's a 34.3 FPS average frame rate. That is superb when it comes to graphics. And coming over here to look at the Galaxy S24 Ultra, we have a 4310 and a 25.81 FPS. Now that's not bad. That's actually pretty strong overall, and still plenty enough to play some smooth gaming here in 2025. So it's nowhere near outdated. Let's go into Geekbench 6 here on the S24 Ultra. We'll take a look at the history. I took one of these earlier as well before I launched all these applications, so maybe it could give us just a little bit better of a score. And you've seen that the iPhone, when we take a look at Geekbench 6, showcases a much bigger leap in terms of both single and multi-core, 1838 to a 3738, and then 9370 to a 6461. Again, respectable scores on the S24 Ultra, but just that much better on the iPhone. One of the areas where I feel like the iPhone tends to get an advantage is some of the applications, especially some of the games, tend to get more, I would say, attention from developers to get more polished, more updates, because they know a lot of people are going to buy them, and there's a lot of iOS users who are willing to play those quite a bit. I feel like a lot of applications on the Samsung phone, there could be a lot more like less polished apps just because of the nature of the Play Store. But all the core stuff that you're used to is here, and the ability to split screen modes and then save app pairs, use the S Pen, which is Bluetooth, by the way, on the S24 Ultra. This phone is still a really solid device, and still, I think, one that would be a great pickup as a used phone right now. If you found one in really good condition at like several $100s cheaper, this goes toe to toe with the look at the latest 17 Pro Max in a lot of areas here, even now. So that was pretty nice to see those scores. Let's go ahead and do a quick speed test net and see if Apple has done a really good job at catching up to the Samsung devices in the area of network Wi-Fi performance. I'm going to go ahead and run that one first, and then I'm going to go ahead and run the S24 Ultra. So we're seeing some really nice downloads here, 452 megabytes per second, around 40 on the upload, nothing too substantial on the upload. Let's go ahead and look at the S24 Ultra once this one wraps up. Now, Samsung has been doing very strong in this area, but I have seen the iPhone doing a little bit better than some of these Samsungs. But we're seeing right here that the Samsung might tell me to be quiet for a minute, because I'm still 464 beating the iPhone there. Again, same server, same Wi-Fi network. So you can see this phone can pull in nearly the same, if not better, upload and download speeds. So both of them do have really strong modems inside. So, network performance, very, very strong on both of these. That's nice to see for sure. I also want to go ahead and take a look at the camera launch speed before we get up out of here. So let me bring in my little Android man, since this is an Android and Apple video, so we can use either here. And it's going to be a little bit hard to hit these cameras as these are massive phones. Let's go ahead and not drop the iPhone over there. So hold on. 3, 2. Oh my goodness. I hit the camera on accident there. My thumb slipped. Let me go ahead and swipe that out now. 3, 2, go. Faster on the iPhone. We'll do it again. 3, 2, go. Faster on the iPhone. A little bit of a jumping effect there. What the heck was that? Let's go ahead and do that again. 3, 2, go. You see that little jump on the iPhone? I think that's the macro mode. Let's go ahead and see how they look when zooming. So 2x, 4x, 8x, 40 times. When zooming out and pinching out, very smooth, not a big issue. Now in the Samsung, take a picture. We can go 2x, 5x, 10x. You can see that there's a little bit of a jump when switching between some of those longer ranges. But the Samsung can definitely zoom quite a bit further. And when taking a shutter, the iPhone tends to have, to me, a faster shutter when taking a photo. So I would prefer it for that respect. But the Samsung's still very versatile in its camera offering, including 10 times optical as well as 100 times reach. So S24 Ultra, absolute monster. iPhone, absolute monster as well in pretty much all respects. This was a fun test. At the end of the day, final verdict though, the iPhone is the winner. It does give you a faster GPU score, CPU score, and graphics score. So when we really get down to it, the iPhone is more powerful as you might have expected. But the Samsung showed that those benchmarks don't really matter too much in everyday casual use. The Samsung right now, if you have one and you're thinking about upgrading to the iPhone, it's more of a trade-off on certain features while also getting an upgrade in other areas. Like, I do think the overall camera system, I would prefer the iPhones. I think it does produce more consistent results than this one. This one does have more zoom and features, but this is more consistent and a better front-facing camera. But the Samsung is very, very useful with its S Pen, dual split screen modes. And so the S24 Ultra, still a hot phone, still one I could definitely recommend to keep. But if you did want to go ahead and upgrade, this wouldn't be a bad option if you do want to try iPhone. Still, very, very good and solid performance still on One UI 8, Android 16 with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 on the S24 Ultra. Let me know your thoughts on this one down below in the comment section of this video. If you want to see more iPhone versus Android comparisons, let me know which models you're looking to see in the comments as well. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well and peace.